Okay, well, hello everybody. Hope you can hear me because I can't hear you. But, anyways, yes, this is something that I have not really done before. When Lynn had asked me to do it, I was kind of taken by surprise, but there was no way I could say no. I'm an ordained ministerial counselor from Pathways of Light. And is the mic okay now? Always. Okay, she had said that the mic is a little low. I'm just checking to see if it's okay now. Okay, well, I guess it is. But anyways, yes, I was a little surprised because this is something that I have. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, so I guess I'm good with the mic. Yeah, this is something that was not was planned or anything, so it was a big surprise. But like I said before, when Spirit calls your name, how do you say no? So I thought what I would do would do a little introduction to myself in a spiritual kind of way, meaning that I just want to go through my spiritual history and road and path to the Course in Miracles and where I am now. And basically, my path started in actually as soon as I was born. I never really felt that I belonged here. Always had that feeling that something was missing, and what I've always been aware of, that's always been more or less that kind of feeling throughout my life. And what I've learned is I really cannot blame it on any one thing as far as, family, or I went to grade school and high school in the Catholic Church and that environment, so on, so many things that we do with inner child work and so forth, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it really hits home that everyone has their own situations that they grew up in, and we're all still dealing with that one thing, which is separation. And we all think that our situations and everything are unique, that if we get this resolved or that resolved or whatever, then things are going to be okay. But things really don't change, or they haven't really changed in my life till I dealt with that main belief, which is separation. So anyways, having said that, this separation had really affected me during grade school, because I never was really focused on the subject matter unless I enjoyed doing it. It wasn't that I couldn't do anything. It was that if I didn't enjoy it, which to me means that I didn't do anything or motivated to do anything until I was connected, until I felt connected in myself. That would relieve that disconnection that I've always felt. And it manifested sometimes as laziness. It manifested as disobedience, talking in the classroom. It manifested in different ways, and which really sets up a pattern the rest of my life, because it's all about trying to ease that feeling of separation, even if it's in an unconscious manner, which basically it really turned into that kind of trance in a subconscious manner throughout my life. But as I look back after doing a lot of inner child work and inner critic work and stuff like that, I see where the cause of pretty much everything is just pretty much that separation from God that we are all born into. And it set up also the belief that my salvation or my answers and everything was outside of myself, which pretty much the Catholic Church had pretty much reinforced that the God is out there. You pray to the God out there, and the God out there will supply you with whatever you need, and that was kind of shattered when I know I wanted a bike for Christmas one time, and I prayed and prayed for it, and it didn't come, and so it was like, wow, I couldn't even believe in that really so much anymore, that my answers are outside of me in that form of a God also. So even though that confidence in that God out there was not as true for me anymore, still the whole lifestyle or whole belief system was set up that it comes from outside, and basically when I was with friends and hanging out with them and engaged in life, I thought that was the people outside of me that were the source of all of the joy, happiness, and everything that I was feeling. But as I know now, it was just me engaged as they were engaging in just pure life also. So it really was not a result of what I was doing outside of me. And so another thing that kind of turned me off a little bit by the Catholic school, and I'm not going to just say this one last thing, but there was a lot of good things about Catholic school also, but I'm trying to give a spiritual perspective of a spiritual path, and so the roadblocks or developments that I'm trying to hit on, more or less. But one of the things when I was in Catholic school, they had a thing called a mortal sin, and a mortal sin is that you burn in hell forever. And one of the things that if you miss Mass on Sunday, that was a mortal sin. And for some reason I did. I'm not sure if it was something I did intentionally or I was sick or something, whatever. I can't remember. But at that time I felt, because of that, I could not really turn to a God and pray without having some kind of guilt, without having that feeling that I did something wrong. He knows I did something wrong, and I'm condemned to hell. So after that, I really did not feel as worthy to ask for anything or have the confidence to actually to be happy or whatever, because I had done something mortally wrong. So anyways, that is the history of the Catholic grade school. Catholic high school was that type of God, that was a vengeful God and a judging God or whatever. And so then I went into college, and I went right into a psychology major. And so I thought, okay, well, psychology is going to teach me what all these thoughts are, teach me what a person is, what the purpose of life is, and all of that good stuff. So it was 2 years taking all the prerequisites and everything until I get into the major courses. And come to find out, after halfway through or almost all the way through, pretty much all they were teaching me were techniques on how to treat a patient, or like a Rogerian theory or this theory or that theory, basically how to do therapy. and really did not address the essence as far as what the purpose of life is, and what is the truth about people, what is the truth about them. It was more just techniques of how to make them talk, how being there for them, or whatever. And basically, it was all just theory. At least that is what I got out of it. So I met a lot of people there from other countries, South American countries, European countries, and everything, and they all had a different view of the United States, being from other countries. And so that's where I started learning a little bit more about international politics and economic systems and all of that, which I never really had experienced before, just being in a regular American neighborhood, watching the news and all that. You just believe all of that kind of stuff. So once again, the emphasis got put on, the truth is outside, where the different kind of systems were the ones that held a key to your life. If this would happen and that would happen outside of me, then this and that would be okay. So right after I had finished my psychology major, I still had classes to take, so I started going into political science and all that stuff, and once again stuck on that belief that the power to my life and everything was outside of me, was not inside of me. I was a spectator or a victim of the world I was in. And so anyways, after college, I became a bartender for a while, and I had a real big life-changing experience there, where I ran into a guy that was going to meet a girl there, and I was only there because someone had called in sick, and he was an electrical contractor, and he needed someone to start doing some drawings for him, and so I talked him into an interview, and I got hired. And so from then on, I learned how to do electrical design, and then I started learning estimating, and I was able to get out of the bartending business. And if it wasn't for that chance meeting there, I never would have been on this life vocation and how I made my living. And then it was a good living. It was a good living, and I enjoyed doing it. If for those two things that weren't supposed to happen did happen, and there was one of those things that changed my life, which I've had several of kind of things that happened from grace, that just God pulled me out to another purpose that I could not have done myself. So anyways, as I was doing that, I bought a house in Garden Grove, which you could see the Crystal Cathedral right from my backyard. And so I decided one day to see, well, what is that big old gigantic place about? So I walked in and listened to Robert Schuller talk about a God that is a loving God, a God that cares for you, a God that wants you to do the best that you can. And I know he had this saying that said, God loves you, and so do I. And that's the first time I've ever heard a message like that in my life, that existed such a God as that. Even though that was still talking about a God outside of me, and a God that had crucified for my sins and all that kind of stuff, and if you don't have Jesus, then you're still going to hell. But still, it was a change in the nature of God. And so, which was really, I don't know if I want to say encouraging, but it did change the way I viewed myself, which I imagine, I'm just figuring that right now. As I viewed God, that's the way I feel about myself. So, anyway, after that, the next spiritual influence that came into my life was Terry Cole Whitaker. I was watching one Sunday morning, and she was doing these shows out of La Jolla in San Diego, which were, I'm almost sure they were religious science of mind teachings. And so that teaching took me to a place where finally that the inside of your thinking, that your thinking is what is driving your life. It was, you change your thoughts, you change your life. It was that whole philosophy there. And so I went along with that, and after her ministry disappeared, or I'm not exactly sure what was, it was a financial crisis or something, then I still continued to go to Science of Mind churches. And I actually was in Las Vegas for 19 years, and I was involved in Science of Mind churches. And actually, I went to the school 4 years to become a practitioner. But the last thing I had to do were like 3 case studies where I went in, talked to someone, did some treatment, and then that was it. I just had to do 3 after 4 years of work, and I couldn't do it because I didn't see myself doing it because I didn't believe in it. And the part of Science of Mind that I did not believe is that they would tell you to treat for whatever you wanted, and the law of attraction is going to bring it to you, and all of that. And so I'm thinking, I see these people coming in. Oh, I want $1 million. I want that, and all of these things. And for some reason, it really did not strike home. It did not really seem like that was real. It did not seem like that was truth. It did not seem that it just didn't seem real. It didn't touch my heart and that. But that at that time in my life was the only game in town. So I did stick around. I helped establish a Science of Mind church, religious science church in Henderson, Nevada, which we had for several years. But then even in that time, when I was studying Science of Mind, I was able to run into Joel Goldsmith's teachings of the Infinite Way. And then Joel Goldsmith, his teachings of the Infinite Way resonated me in a way where that all sounded like the truth to me. It sounded like this is exactly makes all the sense in the world to me. But the thing with Joel that I understand now that I couldn't understand then is Joel was already coming from that place of Christhood. He was already coming from the impersonal I. He was already there, and he wasn't working with blockages in the material world. He would mention them or whatever, but he wasn't working with that. And so the only way I could understand Joel at that time was with my ego thinking, because I was not able to go into the impersonal Christ self at that time. I wasn't even conscious, aware of ever being there. So, in my experience, I can't get into and experience the Christ with an ego mind. I can't experience any peace. I can't experience the true love. I can't experience, inspiration, intelligence, wisdom without being outside of the ego mind. So it wasn't in studying Joel, I was not able to get there, but what he taught was where I wanted to be. He didn't preach about manifesting millions and good health and all this kind of stuff. He was talking about being in that presence of everything I wanted, in the presence of happiness and health and all the spiritual attributes that I really was truly living for. So, anyways, at the end of my time in Las Vegas, Las Vegas had hit a very severe economic slump. I was in the construction industry, and I tried to stick it out and was not able to. And so there was a lot of tactics or vices that I developed because I was losing everything, losing a home, losing money, losing cars. I lost my business. My clients all went bankrupt and everything. And so at that time, I was about as down as I've ever been. And then I lost my health. I went into the hospital. I had diverticulitis. And so they operated on me, and I was out there doing my own work, going up and down the ladder at that time and all that, and so that put an end to that. And so, in the most down time, a friend of mine who I had worked with in the Palm Springs area called me up and said, I've been trying to get a hold of you, and can't get a hold of you because I was in the hospital. And he goes, do you want to come back and work? And so I said, sure. So that's another one of those synchronicities that came about right at the right time to bring me into another area where I can start rebuilding my life. So I didn't have a whole lot to bring with me, so everything I brought, I started up in the Palm Springs area. And that is when I ran into the Course in Miracles. And I believe where I ran into it was in the internet somehow. It might have been on Facebook, might have been on some newsletters or something, because I was getting back into the Science of Mind teachings and Joel Goldsmith and trying to get myself back on into a spiritual disciplined life again. So anyways, I went and started reading the book as much as I could, and finally I decided that I wanted to start doing this for real. And so I asked my mother to buy me Course in Miracles book for Christmas in 2011, because I knew I was going to have this book for the rest of my life. And so I wanted someone like my mother to buy it for me, like she would a Bible, and that's how serious and sacred I wanted that process to be in my life. So in that area, I did not know of anyone that was involved in the course. There was a Science of Mind church in Palm Desert that I used to go to when I lived there, and so I started going there. But I wanted to be involved in a course group, and so in a newspaper there was a person named Dennis Rieger who had course groups, and he held them in his house. So, and they were on Wednesday evenings. And so that Wednesday evening group was my home for the first year and a half. I did not miss one Wednesday meeting. And he had meetings on Saturdays, one Saturday a month, and I would do those. And anything he was up to, I was doing that. And I'm so grateful to him for that for that time that I needed just to be alone with the course, and it was a course and pretty much not a whole lot else of just focusing on it and trying to absorb it, trying to understand it, and it was that time in my life, that whole year and a half, and was a pretty sacred time for me, and it was just a course and not anything else. And then at the end of my stay over there in the Palm Desert, I started going to another course group at the Religious Science Church in Palm Desert, and that was a very, very good group also. But as a side note, my friend Dennis Rieger, he passed away last. Now I think more like at the beginning of this year, and I had already been ordained, and I was able to give the eulogy there for him, and that basically really is the whole extent of my speaking experience that I had in my whole life. I think right now this is the longest I've talked about anything in my whole life. But anyways, I was very honored that I had the opportunity to express my gratitude to him for having that space for me, and it was very special. I would imagine, Holy Spirit might have made another, if it wasn't him, it might have been somebody else or whatever, but it wasn't. It was him, and I honor him and his wife for that so much. So, anyways, during that time I was there, I met Reverend Maria Felipe, and I went to one of her services in Burbank, and there she didn't have anyone recording and everything. She was doing recording with an iPad and all that, and I was just called to, she is someone that needs to be heard, someone I felt was doing a lot of good, doing the best she could with the Course in Miracles message that she had. So I went and I contributed a camera and the mics and all that, the filming equipment, and we just started doing videos for her. And so I was able to get involved in her ministry, and at maybe 4 or 5 months after that, the friend of mine that brought me into that job over in the Palm Desert area, he got fired from being the president, and so I had to deal with a new owner, and the owner and I did not get along, and this was 3-4 months into it, and finally I decided, I'm going to make a change. I'm not happy here. So I went up to my office, went on Craigslist, and then the very first ad that came up was for an electrical estimator in La Crescenta. And I didn't even know where La Crescenta was, and so I looked it up, and then I noticed it was, 20 minutes from Burbank, and so I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and check this out. It's right where I'm going on Sundays anyways. And so I went. It was the day before Thanksgiving. Went, met, got the job, gave my 2 weeks notice, and moved the next weekend, which brought me close to the Unity in Burbank, where I've been able to help more consistently in that ministry. And we have a Spanish-speaking course group also, and it gave me a lot of opportunities to get involved in a ministry and to serve. And so that's pretty much it. Up until now, I got involved in, as I said, in the Pathways of Light. That's another kind of, I was going to call it a side benefit, but that was something that Reverend Maria had done, and she encouraged me to do it. And I took a couple classes with her, and I really liked it, but I wanted to learn this course. I wanted to know what it was all about, and I wanted to more than anything, really just know why I'm here on this earth, and know the truth about myself. So I went into the ministerial course actually for that reason, not really to become a minister, but really to just get down with the course, because I really did not understand it all. I did understand things, little breakthroughs here and there, and I knew that there was a lot more to it than what I was that I could see and what I could understand. So I did go through that ministerial course, and that ministerial course changed my life. It changed my life to a point where I'm in my estimation is that I have a better understanding of everything, of my whole life, of everything that I've gone through and everything, and that I've ever had before. I'm still taking classes with Pathways of Light. I love their classes. I love being able to facilitate classes for others, and also I work with a facilitator that I got ordained with, and we're just doing the whole curriculum together. It's a wonderful thing. And so what I understand about the course that nothing else had really done for me was, first of all, it worked on removing the blocks which were my beliefs about myself and about the world. And this is where I think the inner child work and all those kind of processes come in, and to help remove those blocks, where I can basically start seeing that there is another way, there is another consciousness that's out there, that's kind of like breaking through. And that is one facet of the course that really that I was not aware of on any other spiritual teachings that I was involved with that would do that with me. It made me recognize that I was in a trance, that there is a different consciousness out there that's not based on what my beliefs were. And all of the other teachings would assume, like the science of mind, that you know what you want, and so go out and get it. And I think a lot of teachings are still like that, but to me it's what the ego decides what it wants, and the only thing it wants, as far as I'm concerned, and what I know, is it wants what's outside. It wants a thing that represents what happiness is, a thing that represents what love is, but really is not the essence. And what the Course taught me also, that I was not my beliefs. My identity is not what I believed, as a result of my inner child was, had its beliefs, but I'm not it. What I believed about society, what I believed about my identity as far as physicality and all of that, all of those beliefs are not me. And I think probably maybe the one of the most profound tools and realizations that I made was to realize that even my feelings were actually a belief. Like if I believed in aloneness, or my belief in sadness, or my belief in being hurt, those to me all are outside of reality. If love is real, then those are not real. And that was a big one for me, because what I was doing is I was taking these feelings, and what the feeling did, it went out and it projected the thought. And so then I'm thinking what this person said is making me have this feeling, or what this person said or does or whatever is making me have this feeling. But my experience is the feeling is always separation, and what I project out this belief as the feeling, and then it develops the thought that that's causing me and that's causing me that. I'm at the point where I think maybe I got it backwards, but if I do, it's working. It's working for me, because I couldn't work with the thoughts out there, or work with the belief in this and the belief in this and belief in this, because the ego, if I'm separate, the ego is going to make up more and more and more and more beliefs that I got to work on. But in the belief in separation, you've got just a number of feelings that the separation can feel like. You can feel like a million different things outside of you, but what I'm feeling inside, it's not a million things, and it's just one thing. I'm never upset for the reason I believe, and I believe that the separation, just from even the time that I was born, is that reason. I'm not thinking about things I thought about when I was 5 years old, but I do still have that same feeling, and that is what makes sense to me. That's what the sense that I can make out of the Course, and I'm not a Course scholar, so maybe as I progress, then maybe I'll get a different point of view where I can. If thoughts are the things I'm supposed to be working on, and it's how I think that shapes my life and all that, then I'll get to that point. But for me, where I'm at in my stage in my life, it's my beliefs. And when I run across a belief, especially a belief in what I'm feeling, then I do my forgiveness work. And forgiveness is another thing that the Course introduced into my life that was nowhere else I could find. Nowhere else. And what I can do with the forgiveness work is I can forgive myself for my beliefs in the feelings, and I can forgive myself for the belief in my errors. And then I can also forgive myself for forgetting who I am, that I am that child of God, that I am made in the image and likeness of God. And so those things that I've mentioned are very, very key learnings, teachings in the Course that I've learned, and it has made my life so much, I wouldn't say easier is the word, maybe lighter, meaningful, and I have the awareness that I am not a body, that I am my essence is a spiritual essence, and as I look at this supposedly material body of mine, I can still see the spiritual truth of it. I can see that the body is intelligence manifested, is order manifested, it's energy manifested. All of these spiritual attributes of God is what constitute what's supposed to be my body, but all the scientists and everything now are discovering that basically that we are spirit, that we're 99% or something like that space. And when they look at what we're supposed to be made of molecules and atoms, and they look into these atoms to the very basic thing, they come up with energy and space. There isn't any solidness to us. So it just seems to me that we are that spiritual truth, and the separateness is just the way we see things. We see things in a material way. We understand things in a material way, and that's part of the dream. Is what I gather, what I believe, up until now. But the Course, in as far as giving me purpose, giving me a reason to live, then I know why I'm alive. I know why I'm living right now, and the life experience for me is to recognize myself as that spiritual truth. I'm thinking right now that when in the Course it's saying that we're not a body, I get the impression what it's trying to say is that we are is the belief in the body. Because if I'm looking at my body, I myself can't do anything with this body, but the intelligence in me, digests my food for me. It pumps my blood for me. It breathes for me. It does all of these things that are aspects of God, But I can understand that as my body not being my identity, and what being not a body is not being identified with this body, because really and true we are not this body. We are the spiritual essence, and even the body to me testifies that it's all spiritual aspects that make up this thing, or this error in thinking that I call a body. But anyways, coming back to the purpose in my life. The purpose of my life is to be the spirit that I am, which is the love, which is the happiness and the compassion, is to actually be those things, not to get something outside and interpret it as that. It is to actually be those things. And as that is happening, when the blockages are dropping more and more and more, I am starting to realize that I am those things, and I can move into peace more easily. And when I'm in that peace, then I can see everything, all the illusions, all the trances, and everything that I used to believe in that were real. Like, when I had the house and I had the big, great business and all of that was so real to me, and I really great depression when those things were gone, because I identified those things as myself. But now I can see, and I can feel. More importantly, I can feel when I'm not in alignment, when I'm believing in something else, and it manifests as maybe a projection of some feeling towards somebody or whatever. But it's always, for me, the feeling first. And it's getting easier and easier for me to recognize it and forgive my belief in it, and then I'm able to move on. So and it just keeps getting better. But it's not like it really. I hate to say it's easier. I think it gets more. I don't know, maybe more profound or something, because the blockages have got to be revealed, and I'm starting to see them now as holy messengers to reveal themselves and present themselves as the protection of the survival that it thinks that I need, and that because I believe the ego is more of a survival of the body device, and so it presents themselves to me so I can look at them and look at them as a belief that I had, and then I can change the beliefs. I have a frame of reference of what I really am, so I can see the belief for what it is, for which is only a belief that I can change, because I have enough foundation to know my spiritual truth as a beloved son of God. I'm in touch with the spiritual essence of myself enough where I can go into peace and be grounded in it. I can go into love and compassion and express it and be in that. Oh, this is real, and I can kind of take an observer role and take a look at the beliefs and feel that feeling is not real, and look at those feelings and understand that they don't offer me anything I want. Look at them and see what they offer me, and what exactly I'm going to get for the reward for believing this. Where is it going to take me? And it always ends up, it's nothing that I really want, because it doesn't take me anywhere. It doesn't give me any peace. And peace and being in the spiritual consciousness is really where I want to be. It's where I want to live the rest of my life. So anyways, that is a little bit about myself in my very first radio show. And so I don't know. Lynn, is how are we doing on time and all of that? Okay, maybe she's not busy or she can hear me, but anyways, I would like to also, okay, I have 8 minutes. Okay, well, if I can, I'd like to acknowledge some influences and everything that have been with me throughout the year, and I'd like to kind of mention of course influences that have helped me out through the years. One of them would be for special relationships. If anyone wants a good reference for special relationships, I love looking at the videos that Earl Purdy and Anna Kajawa do. I think they do a series of maybe 15, 20, maybe 20 videos, but they do them together, and they're very entertaining and they're very profound. And anybody to understand special holy relationships, that's the way to go. I want to acknowledge Diedrich Waltz. I was able to spend a week with him, and I love that 6-step forgiveness process that he has. That one is one that I work with every day of my life to some extent or other, and I want to acknowledge him as a great influence, great teacher in my life, and understanding what forgiveness really is and how it can work so well in my life. I want to acknowledge Hal Tipper, one of my facilitators for Pathways of Light. Of course, I want to acknowledge Maria Felipe, who's taken me under her wings and allowed me to to express and extend the love I am, and He's given me opportunities to serve, and so very much, a lot of gratitude, more than I can say. Gabrielle, Veronica Gabrielle, I've been working with her, and she's a very big influence on in my life also. She is, when I heard her on Awakening Together Radio last year, it might have been probably even a year ago, I go, wow, who in the heck is that? So I found out she was in Venice, California, and went down to see her, and so we hit it off really well, and so I do videos and stuff with her, and she's a great friend of mine. And wow, there's just so many. I hope I'm not, I don't want to leave anybody out, but I want to thank Lynn also for trusting. Holy smokes, we only talked for 15 minutes or whatever, and she asked me to do this talk, and so I hope I'm doing a good enough job to where I'm justifying her faith in me. But yeah, I want to thank Lynn. I want to thank Dove Fishman also. He has communicated with me and helped me through a lot of the ins and outs of different situations that I'm in. I want to thank Brittany Shawley. When I was just starting the course, I would listen to her commentaries and her talks on YouTube, and when she decided, I met it was a couple of years ago, to do the course lesson every day. I went through them every single day, did not miss a day, doing the course lessons with her. And so she is someone else that has helped me along the way in consciousness. And I've already mentioned Dennis Rieger. Without him,